Hello everybody, Jose Rodriguez here. A day hardly goes by when someone asks questions pertaining to beginning to print photos at home. And I assume these are fine art type photos or professional type photos or just for amateur use. But you know what my philosophy about that is. And so I will discuss that yet again, after I read you this person's initial post. He says, I am at the point in my photography where I am looking at purchasing my first ever photo printer. I want something that will last for years and is reliable. I have done some research and I am currently looking at getting a Canon Pixma Pro 10S. He must be in Europe because that's the European version of the Pro 10. Do any of you have one of these? Can you recommend it? If you do, one thing I would like to know is how economical you find it. Does the ink go quickly? And I am very likely to only print 2 to 3 photos each a month. Is this okay to do, or will the ink dry up? Apologize for my amateur questions, and I am very new to printing photos. Yes, it is very evident that you are an amateur when it comes to printing because the terms you use are not those that us more seasoned photo printers would use, but that's okay. That's how you begin. I'm being a snot here, okay? So let's address the first question. How economical do you find it? Well, most, if not all, photo printers, and this is something you can take to the bank. So listen carefully. One letter size print of a normal type image. Think about if you were to print a letter size print using one of those standard images that I provide you. That will use about 1 to 1.5 ml of total ink from however number of cartridges your printer has, whether it's 4, whether it's 6, whether it's 8, whether it's 9, whether it's 12. It will use a total of about 1 ml to 1.5 ml of ink. Now that can vary. Of course, it can vary on your quality settings. It can vary due to the type of paper choice you choose. Some papers require a higher ink density level than others. But on average, let's just say 1 to 2 ml of ink. 2 ml would probably be way too much, more like 1.5 ml. So figure out your square inches, and then you can translate that to any other paper size. An 11 by 17, which is twice that of a letter size print. So you can say 2 to 3 ml of ink per print. It has nothing to do with the printer type, the model, okay? That's how much ink you will use. Now, here's the killer. I am likely to only print 2 to 3 photos each month. Stop already. Don't get the printer, okay? Find a local lab that can handle your printing for you. That is a harsh answer, but a very realistic one, especially with a Canon Pro 10, and we'll get into that in a second. Yeah, too irregular. Print more often. Remember, Canon printers require printing every 60 hours. Or that ink you're worrying about losing or using up too quickly will be used even more quickly due to automatic cleaning cycles that will kick in if you print after a 60-hour rest period. So don't even consider getting a printer if you're only going to print 2 to 3 prints a month. It's just not enough. If you are wealthy and you just want to experiment and play and you can afford it, go ahead. But you know what? What happens after the first ink set basically gets used up? It will not dry up. It's not going to dry up like some people think from lack of use. They don't dry up. The ink on the surface of the nozzle plate will definitely dry up and cause possible nozzle clogs. But Canons are pretty good about that. And you know why they do pretty good? Because of those cleaning cycles every 60 hours. So that's how they do it. If you did that on an Epson printer, you would never hear people complaining about Epson printers clogging. But that's all you hear. Why? Because they use them once a month. Of course they're going to clog. So again, this is becoming kind of a rant. And yeah, I think we'll continue on the rant path. All right, so my recommendation is forget it. You're not committed enough to home photo printing and the requirements of a printer like the Pro 10 to be able to not only print economically, but also maintain that printer at its best condition by printing often. Printers like to be used. It's like you getting, you've always wanted I don't know, a French Bulldog puppy, $1,500, and you just want to look at it. You can't afford to feed it. You can't afford to take it to the vet. You're just going to look at it, occasionally take it out for a walk. If you need a doggy fix that bad, you go play with your neighbor's dog. That neighbor takes care of his dogs and takes it to the vet and feeds it every day and walks it every day. You're not committed to that. So you just want a doggy fix or a baby fix, go play with your neighbor's doggy or baby. Don't get a photo printer. You just cannot commit to what you need to do to maintain that printer. It's best to not spend the money on it and just have your work done elsewhere. Somebody immediately answered back, Canon Pro 10 is a really good printer, especially for color photography. The main downside for this printer is large margin for fine art prints. Fine art matte prints? No, it's for any fine art print that you choose the fine art setting for. However, I would not buy a printer if I was only printing 2 to 3 photos a month. Thank you. I had nothing to do with this guy. The printer would waste more ink on print head cleanings rather than prints. Also, Pro 10 being a pigment printer requires printing or print nozzle checks every 2 weeks. I would say every week. And in fact, the Pro 10 requires printing every 60 hours. That's 2.5 days. Or you're going to run a cleaning cycle before anything even begins to get printed. The moment you send a print job at the 61st hour, you will run a cleaning cycle. There are other also cleaning cycles that take place. If you print 6, 7, 8 consecutive prints, somewhere along that line it will run a mini cleaning cycles to make sure that the print head is always kept primed. All right, so then he continues on to say, others can say that they did not use the printer for half a year and had perfect nozzle checks. In reality, that would significantly shorten the life of the print head. Canon print heads have extra nozzles that get mapped if the printer detects blocked nozzles. Okay, that's true and false. Only certain level of Canon printers have the mapping or the nozzle mapping technology built in. For your regular prosumer printers, I don't think that applies. That applies more to the professional IPF type printers. You don't even notice you have a clog because as soon as the printer detects there's a clog, it just cancels that nozzle out. It turns off any electrical connection to that nozzle and then maps another adjacent nozzle to take over for that blocked one. That is basically non-fixable, in other words. But he does have a point. Canon printers do have extra nozzles on their print heads that get mapped when other nozzles get clogged and you won't even notice it. So you think, oh boy, I just ignored my printer for half a year. Well, another thing is, remember, you didn't use it for 6 months. Guess what? The minute you send a job to it, it runs a massive cleaning cycle. And that by itself could clear up any clogs that may have developed during that 6-month hiatus, or basically neglectment. So that's what's happening there, really. Canon print heads have extra nozzles, and you will have to change your print head after you run out of nozzle. And a print head for this particular printer, the Pro 10, runs you about $115 to $160. If you're living in the US, you can start with a Canon Pro 100. It uses dye inks, which is better suited for occasional printing. Once you buy a printer, your number of prints can significantly increase. So you're thinking you might print 2 to 3 a month. Hopefully, once you get started, you'll enjoy it so much that you will print more often. That's what my hope is. But also, I want to touch on the cost of the printhead. Yes, think about this. A Pro 100, for instance, can be purchased at a net price after rebate of about $100. Maybe more, maybe less. A printhead costs about $100, even $120. So why would you want to, shorten the life of that printhead by not using the printer often enough? Again, you might as well just toss it and get a new printer, again, going through the process of the rebate. It's just not worth it. A Pro 10, the rebates are not as great as that for the Pro 100. The Pro 10 is about a $500, $600 printer by itself. And if you're in Europe like this person is, you're not going to get a rebate over there. So you're going to pay out the, for that printer. So you might as well put it to use. The false thinking or false economy that if I don't use my printer often, it will last longer, does not apply to printers. That really does not work. So think about that. All right, let's go to the next and final comment. This is one of the more senior members of the forum. Start by getting a less than $100 consumer grade printer to see if you even like printing and on which you can still produce wonderful prints, albeit in larger sizes. I do not own a Pro 10. I do like it a lot because of the way Canon integrates the matte and photo black inks, the chroma optimizer, and the way it tracks paper. I will discuss those details. K3 Epson printers have to share one black channel for both photo black and matte black. Canon printers do not. So there's no switching back and forth, and therefore no possibility of a valve malfunctioning 2-3 years down the road. Also, the chroma optimizer allows you to print on glossy papers to the point where there's absolutely no bronzing or gloss differential at all, which would be visible on a lot of papers printed on a workhorse like the Epson P800. Even with those up-to-date inks that it uses, it still has a bit of gloss differential and some bronzing on certain papers. The Pro 10 with the chroma optimizer basically obliterates that problem. The paper tracking. Epson printers adjust paper size to the right, and they use one roller to initiate the paper advance. In years down the road, that roller starts to wear out and you can end up with a skewed paper. It starts straight, but it ends up skewed. On a Canon printer, the paper tracking is in the middle. So when you adjust paper size, you're actually adjusting two guides, and the paper is always kept centered in the paper feed position. So that is an advantage, as far as I'm concerned, of Canon printers over some Epson printers. I would start with an Epson expression printer if you want to see what dye Claria ink is like, or an Epson Workforce if you want to see what pigment ink Durabright ink is like. Well, no, this guy wants to print photos. You're suggesting a couple of office type printers. No. I would suggest an Epson 1430. That's a new Artisan 1430 6-color dye ink printer, 13-inch capacity, or a Canon Pro 100. 8-color printer using dye inks. Again, 13-inch capacity. Both produce excellent prints. I think the Canon would have a little bit slight edge in black and white printing, but with some good profiling, you can get that 6-color Epson printer to produce some pretty good neutrality on some black and whites. So that's it. Again, the point of all of this is that these people want to get into photo printing. They have no clue what they're getting into. They have no clue. Again, my analogy about the puppy. Don't commit to a puppy that costs $1,500 and then, oh God, I got to take it to the vet. That's going to cost $600. I got to buy expensive food because he's a pedigree about that long, and all of that. No, a photo printer is going to run you to the poorhouse if you start using it as you should be using it. And if you do not, then you're going to go to the poorhouse anyway, wasting ink on cleaning cycles. So again, regardless of how you look at it, photo printing at home is not a cheap thing to do. Now, there are other options such as third-party ink systems, and not all printers allow you to do so. They don't allow you to go down that route. But again, I am talking about using all original inks, original papers. Yes, it's going to be an expensive little hobby you're going to get into, and you better be able to support that printer the way it is supposed to be. Done. All right, that is it. End of rant. I'm done. Again, please, folks, really, really think twice or 3 times or 4 times about getting into home printing. Yes, I want you to join my channel. Yes, I want you to be a follower. Yes, I want you to enjoy home printing, but I have to be truthful with you guys and tell you that it is not for the weak of heart, okay? It can really become quite a undertaking. I'll leave you with this one little, really great little saying that a guy posted. He says, get your young children to learn and love photo printing. When they grow up to be teenagers, they will not have any money for drugs and getting into other shenanigans. They will be spending all their money in their printers and inks and papers. Oh, wow. I love that. That was wonderful. All right. Thank you once again. Please subscribe, share, and like. And until the next time, everybody, happy printing. Bye-bye.